Hi, I'm Carla Cummins. Welcome back to the Better Learning Podcast. I'm joined by our co-host, Nick, our education market leader out of Lubbock, Texas. So Nick brings a real world experience of boots on the ground and a perspective from someone who's worked directly within a district every single day. So Erica, you bring insights in education. So give me a brief introduction of who you are. I say Colorado, but it's a big state, right?
So yeah, I'm a native of Colorado. That's kind of rare. And it's a little branding thing that I get to patch onto my thing so I could proudly wear it. I love my state. It's one of my favorite things about me. So I tell people, take down my information. If you ever want to come to Colorado, I'll help you plan your little tours and I'll let you know the ins, outs, where to go. And so I just love all about that. It's my state's who I am. What else is there that's kind of fun about me? So I kind of got a little bit of a roundabout way in construction. I started off at school. So I'm going to take you guys way back. So let's just
Let's
do it.
go.
I would start off in college. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a nuclear engineer. You know what I realized?
Oh,
Not that smart. So I went accounting, and it's just as equally as smart. But I went accounting, got out in the world. Very thankful for my accounting degree. It led me down really unique paths. I actually got to, here in Colorado, we get this lovely reputation for our medical marijuana. I actually got to be part of that experience. Such a fun time. So anyway, that experience kind of led me into just the importance of developing relationships as an entrepreneurial idea. And what happened was a good friend of mine that I ended up meeting was like, hey, you should try sales. And I said, wow, I don't know. I mean, I love talking, but do people really want to listen to me? And like, absolutely, you have something to do. So I got into construction by just, developing relationships for a major company. I had no experience, but I had this amazing boss. I have to give him a shout out, Mark Stutz. He really saw me. I had no brick experience, no construction experience, no sales experience, but he's like, I believe in you. And I am so thankful for him. And that really just skyrocketed my career into now where I'm at, as a BD person. And that's really got my start in this. So I do business development for Wells. Wells is a building systems who is really grounded in regional connections. And one of our real big trust building exercises is through K through 12 and learning environments. And we really help them connect, their common needs now to how they kind of build a building out to help provide solutions to that. And it's kind of where I am.
so did you jump from marijuana to building? Did you go directly from that?
Yeah, I went
into
directly
construction?
from helping marijuana distributors, job cost marijuana plants into selling brick.
I love
Right
it.
into it.
I love it. I know. What would you say the best part of that transition was?
Sales is such a unique perspective too. We obviously believe that entrepreneurship is a profession. We believe accounting is a profession. We believe architectural is a profession. We believe, superintendents is a profession. Sometimes we believe sales and we view sales as just like these people are out here just trying to close deals and, Wolf of Wall Street style, but it is actually a profession. And one of the biggest things for me is just really embracing that too, that I have to learn how to public speak. I have to make sure I can control my tone. I can make eye contact. I can get people to believe. There's a lot of research too as well. I have to make sure what I'm providing, I believe in, and it is providing a solution to gain that long-term trust. I have to believe that I too belong on the table, to make sure that, what I'm offering is something that you're going to need. And I also get the right to say no to the sale as much as you get the right to say no to the sale too as well. And so that's kind of been the biggest challenge and kind of shifting of my thought process is that where sales is a professional, it is something that takes development and we have to be part of it too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think any role that we have it's all people oriented, right? So what does that look like? And that's a skill that's transitionable through marijuana or
People do like that part
um,
about my background.
it's legal here in Arizona too. So I think the novelty for Colorado's worn off a
Mm-hmm.
little bit given all of that, but it is still
Yeah.
cool. So what organizations are you part of that have given you the ability to grow in the construction
Oh my
industry?
gosh.
Are you active in
Beyond
any?
just having really amazing bosses through my thing, I knew the bio that I kind of sent in, I highlighted a lot of my bosses because, I really live in the collective we. I do not believe anybody gets anywhere by just your hard work. It takes a team to make this whole thing go through. And so I really like to highlight the people who's been part of my success. So beyond just, being selective in the organizations that I work for and making sure I'm behind the product that I'm also representing, the company that I'm representing, that also means for like organizations too, right? So there's so many organizations out there that want to uplift the construction industry in whole. So what are those, and what can we really evaluate, and uplift my talents and can use my talents to then uplift the whole, tide. And some of that would be A4LE. I love A4LE, especially in the educational world. They do a wonderful job connecting educators, supers, facility managers, architects, GCs, product representatives like myself. Another one is CSI, Construction Specification Institute. I fully believe in them. Sometimes that specification word, people feel like it's going to be boring and it's just going to be these written documents. But if you want to talk about a good group of people, specifiers, they're like the accountants at the holiday party. They're just fun people to be around, but they do like, good sentence structure.
I used to be a member. Yeah. I used to be a member.
Yeah, I love CSI. I also am part of SMPS, which is a business development and marketing kind of group as well. All of these are going to be nationwide with like local chapters. That's really fun too. So those are the three that I've really decided to invest my time into. Now there's so many out there, and I'm not just saying just because of these three. Please look into it that makes sense for you in your professional organization, but don't just join to join. Okay, if you're going to join an organization, invest in it. Really make intentional connections. There's a community that you need to be part of? Is there a group that might need help with programs? Is there a way I can be on the board? Maybe you're not ready to fully dive into the full-term relationship of a board member, but there's definitely ways to get involved other than just showing up. Be part of that movement.
Yeah. Well, Erica, I should introduce you to some of my fun people in Colorado. Good. Well, obviously, right, the Better Learning podcast is grounded in education. So put on your education hat because that's what we're really going to talk about. When we look at it, I think we've already figured out how you got involved in school design and educationally based, right? So going into and starting with Wells, did that, and education is one of the verticals that you guys focus on.
Correct.
Now.
Yeah.
Is that
all right? So I started creating got into designing, helping design schools. So I'm not an architect. I'm not a GC. I'm going to be a building product that they ultimately use to then help the school actually become through to fruition. And so I got into this through obviously business development, which contrary to popular beliefs is not just happy hour and golf. Okay. And it is a solid part.
I love it.
But it's more than just that. Okay. Business development is about research and relationship at its core. So I spend a lot of my time studying enrollment trends, population growth, funding cycles, long-term facility needs. And I take all of this beautiful research that I get, and then I kind of translate into mutual support. So that can be done through stakeholders. It can help my company make decisions whether we're, going on the right transition path too as well for our companies, whether these superintendents or these principals and these community members are actually going through the right path too as well. And that has to include students too. Is this space and this option that I'm providing also includes students? Is it going to be for this students this year? Is it going to be generational students too as well? So in big words, my job is about cultivating real relationships that take real problems and connect with real solutions, right? That's what business development is. And yes, it does come with golf tournaments sometimes. But as I dug in to the K through 12 higher ed markets, I started noticing some real common headaches. I was tasked by my boss to kind of grow this community of the higher earning and learning environments. And so I said, okay, well, let me start researching into it. And so through this, I started noticing these really common kind of sticky points like tight budgets, really aggressive schedules. A lot of times the schedules have to be done while the kids are either, finishing while the kids are out of school so they can transition in. A lot of times you're building right next to an existing school where the kids are still in school. You have growing communities. Some of these communities are just skyrocketing. So how do you help with that? There was one school I worked on. It was a 10-year-old school and they already outgrew it. And so what do these kind of things look like? So we have these growing problems, and then more of that, it's just these schools are so left with doing more with less, right? They don't want to constantly go out for funding every time that there's a budget constraint. So how can we do more with less? How can we plan for the future, right? And that's where like myself and Wells really kind of came in. We're a national building solutions company. We specialize in prefabricated building systems a little bit, architectural and structural. And so it just really kind of helped me understand, here are all my components that I have and that I represent. And does it actually fit for K through 12? My boss has asked me to pursue K through 12 and higher learning. Is it actually a fit? And I realized it is a fit. Like there's a lot of things that kind of can be big. And I really took a lot of pride in that, because schools aren't just these buildings. They are the heartbeat of the community. They are where Friday nights happen. They're where families gather. They're where people get to wear school spirit. It's where somebody goes, people ask me all the time, hey, you're from the Springs? Yeah, I'm from the Springs. What high school did you go to? It's the first question that they ask. What high school did you go to? So it's important. It's part of who I am. It's part of my identity. It's part of what I am. So when our real questions came is not just, do I have a product to sell, but am I actually helping these learning environments to stretch their dollars to create an entire community? So when somebody asks me, what school did you go to? I can proudly say and represent my team, go Spartans, right? That's kind of where it is.
Well, I'm curious, have you always been this meticulous of a learner, or what are some of the natural advantages you brought into this position?
I would say I always loved learning. Again, if you remember back in my intro, except for nuclear engineering. I quickly was like, get calculus out. But no, I really do like learning. I like connecting. I think that's my favorite part of business development and going back to being sales as a profession is you have to learn. If you're not constantly learning, then you're not literally learning how to help your customers, right, too, as well. And so when you start to see me as a profession, it does mean that I have to continue my education, just like an architect, just like a GC, just like lawyers, just like accounting. You have to do that. So yeah, I do enjoy learning, and I do enjoy researching to help people, because the more I can come prepared, the more I can really help guide these questions that need to be helped.
Well, I think every role you take on, right? Every job, let's just say, there's an element of learning that you just have to do in order to be good at that role and to understand, who your target audience is. So that leads us to the next question of when you're talking about education, and you said so many of them, right? Like communities are, or schools are the center of communities. They have their own distinct culture. They have their own distinct set of, really like rules that you go by, but they can oftentimes too make or break a community in a sense where you're looking at, is this a place where you want to live? That school's not so great. We don't want to live there. So when you say in your own words, what does radically student-centered mean? Because that's our tagline, right, on the podcast. What does that mean to you?
Oh, man. This one kind of took me a little while to kind of think about, and I really wanted to make sure I articulated it really well. And so I have this statement that I live by, and it's teamwork makes the dream work. So I played D1 soccer. You always had to be with your team, constantly kind of doing things. And it really kind of embedded it in me there, but it also really embedded in me when I actually started getting into a profession like sales. And I had to go back to my bosses, right? This teamwork makes the dream work. So when I think radically centered, I try to think, how is this environment developing kids to meet their own team too? So a lot of times we often live in the me, such as my role, my department, my grades, my agenda. Am I getting what I need, right? And so we start to have to really think, and the real impact is when we start doing everything in the we. When everything done right is generally done collectively, right? And if we're being honest, like building a team requires networking. And if you're not networking, then how are you building a team? And it's not just peer-to-peer. It's not student to student. It is also, teacher to student. It is principal to teacher. It is, senior to freshman. It is this kind of big, encompassing, intergenerational kind of way of doing it. And as much as we don't want to admit it, schools are networking machines. It is where you're going to build your cultivation too, right? So to go back to radically student-centered, okay, great, you taught your kid, photosynthesis, but have you taught these students to also how to build their team? That longevity is going to shape their lives too as well. And this networking can happen in formal ways like clubs, student organizations,